Hello, I'm John Feldt, and this is the weekly water outlook for Texas and the South region. Today's date is December 16th, 2012. Taking a look at the rainfall over the state of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, and Louisiana for the last week, what you can see here in blue is rainfall only up to about a ½ inch. So even though rain did fall in some spots and it was welcome, especially some of those areas in green, now that's a little bit closer to a ½ inch. We see a little bit here in Oklahoma, a couple streaks here in East Texas. That was very welcome because it hasn't rained in some of those areas for quite some time. But by far, the lighter blues are indicating rainfall of only a tenth of an inch, and that's not going to do anything at all. Look at this area here once again. Very little or no rain whatsoever over parts of west, central, and southern Texas over the last week. So continued very dry is again the story for yet another week. Now, there is actually a lot going on across parts of the country. Unfortunately for the South, it looks like it's only going to affect the southeast U.S. and not so much the south central U.S. This is the current radar as we see as of mid-morning on Sunday. We have a fairly strong line of precipitation. It's brushing the far southeast and eastern parts of Texas. It's also brushing a large part of Oklahoma and Louisiana, or I should say Arkansas and Louisiana, and just a very small part of Oklahoma. And that's been that pattern, and it looks like it will continue to be that pattern as we see moisture being picked up from the Gulf of Mexico and lifted up ahead of this. These lines here are indicating wind, and it's pushing this moisture from the Gulf of Mexico into that system, and then it'll bring some welcome rain to areas further to the east. Unfortunately, it's not going to affect much of Texas at all, as well as Oklahoma. Now, for a number of weeks now, I've talked about the Arctic Oscillation, which is a teleconnection. Sort of a refresher, teleconnections are imbalances in atmospheric pressure, and especially in the winter months, that's important as to where the precipitation will form and where it'll go. I wanted to show here on this bottom image right here, these little dashed lines. Those are areas of temperature or indications of what temperature would be. And if you look here, we have a very tight packing of many lines very close together. That's this tight gradient of temperature. It goes from fairly warm over the southeast U.S. to very cold over the Midwest. And when you get that tight packing of temperature, precipitation bands often form along those and move along those. And that's why precipitation has increased over parts of the Tennessee Valley and also the southeast U.S. The Arctic Oscillation is forecast to remain negative as we get out through the rest of the year, rest of December, and I think this type of pattern will also continue as we round out the year. So the big picture shows the jet stream has dipped a bit south. That is what I would expect with this Arctic Oscillation. Not necessarily huge pools of cold air pushing south, but with the jet stream south, we have embedded pockets of energy. These are the surface lows, but each one of these little kinks in the upper jet stream is a pocket of energy. And instead of moving up well to the north, they're moving more over the southern U.S., and that's why we've increased precipitation over the southeast U.S. Unfortunately, the energy is mainly east of Texas and Oklahoma, and the moisture is mainly east of Texas and Oklahoma, and unfortunately that means it's going to remain dry over our region. So the trends and threats as we get into the latter part of December, 16th through 22nd, for most of the southern U.S., for large parts of central and western Texas, most of Oklahoma and Kansas, it looks like it's going to remain dry for the upcoming week. Now, there could be some light precipitation, like we saw last week, over the area. And I have indicated here that parts of Texas, once again, West Texas, I don't expect any rain whatsoever. Now, you can see it like we've seen in the last couple weeks. There is that possibility of some precipitation brushing the southeast part of Texas, maybe far eastern Oklahoma. But I think that'll be just very scattered in coverage and nothing all that significant. Wanted to sort of zoom in here and show you where that line would be, where the rainfall would drop off, and you can see it's just a very, very small part of the state of Texas. just light rain over Oklahoma, and more significant rain over Louisiana and Mississippi. That's really going to be the axis. And I think if you look at this line here, this blue line, that's going to be the cutoff line generally, where north of there the rainfall will not be significant. To the east and southeast it would be more significant. Unfortunately, I wish I could give you better news as we round out the end of 2012. I really don't see any change in this pattern. This is the long-range model. Well, actually, it's the medium-range model. It goes through the very end of the year, and you can see not much change in the precipitation patterns over the south central U.S. I thought I'd throw in a couple of extra graphics here, just sort of give you a review of the year, and I'll probably put some things together over the next couple of weeks regarding the annual review. But these are accumulated rainfall images for the whole year. It starts around January, or actually at January 12th. It's 365 days. And what you can see here are areas in green or above normal, areas in brown or below normal. So this would be the normal line, our normal amount of precipitation as we go through the year. And if it's below this line, it's rainfall deficits. If it's above, it's rainfall surpluses. So we look at Tulsa, well, we see that it remained pretty close to normal up until May or June, and ever since then it's been below normal and increasingly below normal. So the further it gets down away from that line, the more it is below normal. You might remember in the central part of the state, Dallas and Fort Worth actually had somewhat of a wet spell February through this fall. Not exceedingly wet, but at least some rain, and we were running above normal rainfall until this fall, and then it shut off, and ever since then we've had increasing rainfall deficits in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Now if we look at South and West Texas, Del Rio, we see again right towards summer here, July rainfall shut off, and we've had below normal rainfall from July all the way up through December. And we especially see the impacts of the lack of rain over West Texas. Here's Lubbock, Texas, and you can see even the early part through the winter months, precipitation last winter, that is, remained close to normal. And then ever since spring on, we've seen significant rainfall deficits. And right now, they're most extensive than we've seen the entire year. A graphical way to look at this, or maybe an aerial extent for the past 30 and 60 days, I just want to show you how static this has been, what we've seen over the last 60 days, the last couple months here. And if you sort of look at this, you know, you really don't see a whole lot of change from the the pattern. There's some small scale differences, but for the most part, for both the past 30 and the past 60 days over the South, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, and Arkansas, very stable, static pattern with some areas getting some rain over the eastern part of the region, but the central part, the majority of the region, very little rain and significant rainfall deficits. So this week, takeaway, even though there'll be some action to the east and parts of the southeast U.S. are looking for some welcome rain, it's only going to brush the far southeast part of Texas, light amounts of rain over parts of Arkansas and parts of Oklahoma and Kansas, very insignificant. So really the story this week looks like it's going to be continued quiet and dry, and matter of fact, it looks like this pattern will continue through the rest of 2012. Thank you for listening to this week's weekly weather outlook. If you ever have any questions at all, feel free to email me with your questions or comments if you would like to hear something I'm not covering, or if you have any comments, if I am providing information that you find useful, I'd like to hear about that at all as well. You can reach me at john@bluewateroutlook.com. If not, I'll be talking with you again next week.